What's up, everybody? Today we're talking about Squad's new co-op PVE game mode called Fireteam. During the recent Squad partner meetup at Offworld, I had the chance to sit down with Howitzer to talk a little bit about the new game mode and what players can expect from it. So before we get to that, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment down below with your thoughts on the game mode. And if you want a copy of Squad or to gift a copy of Squad, you can use my code SLAY3K30 at the link in the description below for 30% off. Before we dive into the interview with Howitzer, let me give you some context. There's been a dev blog release, which we'll talk a little bit about after the interview. You'll hear us referring to the game mode as co-op because that was the working title before Fireteam was selected. And interlaced with the interview, you're going to see footage from one of the missions taking place on Mutaha that we got to play during the partner meetup at Offworld. Now let's go ahead and dive into our interview with Howitzer. Well, Howitzer, thank you for joining me. We're talking about Squad co-op, a new mode that's been announced for Squad that is a very friendly, smaller, team-oriented and mission-driven format, I think is a good way to break it down.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of saying it, yeah.
Okay. How did this idea of co-op for Squad start and come about?
So last year, in 2024, a couple of the devs got together. We do this innovation week for Offworld, where the whole studio sort of goes offline for a week and works on kind of whatever they want to innovate Squad, to innovate features. We sort of let the reins off, and a small group of people got together to create basically the prototype of what this would become. And that started on Fallujah as the compound that was replicated. The compound Osama bin Laden was in there in Fallujah. They made a kind of cache destroying mission there. And they had a few things that might not be seen yet in co-op, like civilians, but they made that prototype. And they displayed it and presented it to the studio, and we did a play test inside the studio there as well. It was something special. There was something there that we thought something like this could work in Squad, could live inside Squad. We sort of started to figure out how could it fit in Squad. What does that mean? And that was sort of how it started basically last year in November.
We've seen a little bit behind the scenes this week. With the inspiration that you guys do and give the opportunity for employees to take part in, which is really cool because I know that a lot of that I can't really share much from, but it is neat to see some of the ideas that folks find, whether it's like quality of life things or bigger projects like this.
Yep.
What are like some goals? Like when you talk about, hey, we're going to go ahead and pursue this based off an inspirational idea, what are some of the goals you hope to have for it and the game mode itself longer term?
Sure. So there's a couple of different goals that I could probably touch on. One of them is, I guess, a gameplay goal in that we want to make sure that we savor those Squad moments that are kind of sometimes far in between, but what stick with us when we play Squad, when we play matches with your friends. We want to get those moments easier, either to people who already play Squad or new people who might want to experience Squad but find it a little bit more difficult to get into large-scale 50v50 PvP. One, we want to sort of protect those moments of gameplay, those Squad moments of storytelling, basically players telling the story. We're not sort of prescribing you to complete an objective in a specific way. We're giving the objective and that's it, hands off. So there's sort of trying to protect that as much as we can. And then there's, I alluded to it earlier before, sort of like onboarding new players into that experience too. So some people might be a bit scared jumping in with their friends into a 50v50 match. But if they can come in, play half an hour, 45 minutes with a small group of friends and understand really what Squad is about, they might feel a bit more inclined to try 50v50, try that sort of larger scale experience. So those are sort of two areas that we want to focus in on and make sure that we don't disturb what makes Squad special while also delivering that. Not necessarily a scaled back version, but just an easier version to get into than head-to-head PvP.
What are you excited about when it comes to the player base getting into it? Like, is there something that stands out to the team as like, we really want players to get their hands on this because of this is what you guys see? I know that's kind of tied in closely with goals.
Yeah. So obviously we have our thoughts and ideas on what the player base and the community might think of it. But we really don't know until everyone gets their hands on it. like you guys here this week have played it and given feedback, and we've sort of had our aha moments and things like that. We want to see what the community does with it. We want to give the community, squad players, sort of another avenue to play what is fun in squad, either in downtime or, like I was saying, new players to help them on board. But the other part of that is also just seeing what comes of it. If more mission ideas come from it, if like modders will have access to these mission tools, so they'll be able to do all sorts of different things that we don't think up of. So they'll be able to get their hands on it and sort of mold how they sort of see that mode as well. So we're excited to see what feedback and ideas come from the community and work from basically the feedback we're getting from there. Because again, we have our ideas, we have what we might want to, what we think it might be, but as soon as you get it in the hands of the players, maybe some expectations sort of line up, but ultimately, like, it could go in a way different direction than what we thought, that the whole community sort of banded around, and that's just a win-win if that works out, like lining up what we're working on, what the community wants, and sort of pushing forward that.
Yeah, and I think you kind of answered this question, but the opportunity for player or community created missions. What can you tell us about that opportunity?
We want that to happen. How that works out and how that's delivered to modders and content creators, we still need to figure out. Modders should have access to the tools even now in the mod SDK. So right now, if you open the mod SDK, you can go around and noodle with these mission creation tools. That's another sort of blue sky area that we really want to sort of work towards, figuring out what that looks like. Is it using the mod SDK? Is it creating our own in-game mission editor, like some of the Armor games have? Letting the community tell us what would work better for them. If people don't want that mod SDK and don't want to have to deal with all of that, there's a lot going on in the mod SDK. But if we can create missions and experiences in-game somehow and have players share those missions and all that kind of stuff, that would be awesome.
Very cool. Thank you for joining me. We need to get a couple questions in on co-op and hopefully have some footage tied to it. So I appreciate it, Howitzer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
That concludes my interview with Howitzer. Obviously, some of this is more so general ideas of what they expect or what they want to push out of the game mode, how it was started, and so on. Now, it's worth reminding you that the footage and the interview took place back in September. So now we have a dev blog that's been released talking a little bit more about Squad Fireteam. So this information is a little bit more up to date, but it gives you a breakdown of what to expect from the game mode and basically what Offworld is looking to do with the game mode. And it shouldn't be a shocker that this is really meant to broaden the appeal of Squad, introducing the game to new players who want to experience the Squad sandbox and what it is without jumping into 50v50, and also giving veteran players a different way of playing in a new set of challenges in the same framework. This has also been a significant project in trying to improve bot behavior within Squad. And a long-term goal of this is also to try to get modders involved to make missions for the community by the community. It's also noteworthy that Offworld intends to have its own roadmap for Fireteam and the content they intend to release. Now, Fireteam is rolling out in 10.1 as sort of an early access to what they hope to build out over time. And it's going to release with a free pack of missions along with 2 different paid tiers of missions. And it's clear the intent behind the paid tiers is to continue to make investments in the development of Fireteam, which just based off the names of the packs kind of makes sense because it's the supporter pack and the founder pack, and the founder pack will be retired within about 6 months. So what are all these tiers? The free tier will include 4 free missions that will be released to everyone. The supporter pack is going to be $7.99. It's going to come with 9 missions. That'll bring your mission count up to 13. Now, the founder pack comes with additional exclusive content to the founder pack, including gesture, weapon skin, and community voted weapon skin coming in February 2026. Now, the free missions will include a couple different game modes, including the Mutaha Combined Arms mission, which you've been watching footage of and will continue to watch footage of once we're done talking about the dev blog. Now, as for the other game modes, I have more content that I want to release tied to Fireteam that can give you some behind the scenes of what some of these missions and modes look like, including the extraction mission, which actually takes place on Narva. That at least gives you a chance to sample the game mode. But if you go for the paid tiers, you're going to get 9 additional missions across different game modes and maps. And what you can now start to get a feel for is a little bit of the mission selection system that'll be implemented into the game with 10.1. As sort of discussed in the interview, this is something that was conceptualized with a small group and built as a prototype. And it seems that Offworld found something that they're pleased with and they want to share with the community. In addition to all this information, they've included an FAQ. They indicate that only a small portion of the squad team has been working on this game mode, and they want to test it before going much deeper into development. I don't think it's surprising that you would also need your friends to have the paid tier in order to play the paid missions together. However, everyone will be able to play the free missions. Now, of course, the goal is, again, to get this in the hand of modders to help make missions and to populate that side of things. It also seems like the goal would be to continue to add missions over time. For example, starting in January, they want to add one additional free mission and one mission specific to the paid tiers. Next up, they want to create different types of missions. They want to create missions across different maps. But maybe the most significant thing is trying to create some comprehensive tutorial for Squad to help set players up for 50v50, which I think is maybe the most critical thing that this game mode should offer, especially for new players. And they also hope to tie rewards in for completing missions, which I think could be really cool, especially if built out amongst some of the other things that they've talked about, including in Squad, like the brigade system, and of course the career panel. Now, I want to look at this from the perspective of just generally the announcement of this game mode and some of the details around it. Now, I think there are a couple big things to take away from what this sort of opportunity presents to the game. First of all, it's something that you can do with friends, sort of isolated from PvP, but still within the context of what we know about Squad. So Squad is a sandbox, but you have more control over it because it's just you and a few friends. Next, I think this presents an opportunity Offworld needs to follow up on, and that is education. Education for new players using some of these systems that are made for Fireteam, or within Fireteam. While just diving into a mission, new players could get accustomed to certain things. They could get an idea for some of the mechanics of Squad. You're not pushing somebody that's new to the game entirely to jump into a 50v50 PvP situation that can be pretty intimidating and overwhelming. Instead, you have the opportunity to have a guided experience along a set couple of missions and maybe get a better feel for the game before going to PvP. The other note I would take away from this dev blog and some of the information provided is the desire to get modders involved in Fireteam. I think this is important for Squad and really any game to help drive longevity. Having modders available to the game and active within a game helps drive innovation. It gives new ideas and new perspectives on how the game can be played, or new stuff added to the game and content. Having community-made missions for the community would be great. Having the ability to modify vanilla missions would also be an opportunity to just create some diversity in the gameplay and the experience. Having modders involved would also help keep content fresh by releasing separate from a schedule that's dictated by Offworld. Additionally, it may just bring more modders to the game, which is inevitably helpful. Education and modding are two things that I see that are sort of top of mind when I'm thinking about Fireteam. Now, I realized with this video, we were going to focus on the interview that I had back in September and the dev blog and the overall announcement of Fireteam going out to the public. But it was going to be difficult for me to give you enough context to really see the depth of Fireteam and the missions associated with the game mode. You're only scratching the surface with the footage that you see right now. But then I wanted to create a follow-up video where we dive a little bit further into some of the missions and give you much more context about the missions themselves, the experience, and the game modes and objectives. But I do realize there's an elephant in the room that's not necessarily getting addressed with a lot of what I've talked about thus far, and it seems like something we do need to talk about. And that thing is the community reaction to this game mode, being something that doesn't change anything, fix anything, or repair what a lot of folks see is the main issue with Squad right now, being the PvP experience, the bugs, the performance, and so on. There's frankly not much I can do to alleviate those concerns because they're valid. They are a concern. We're being asked to accept a new game mode while the game mode that we all know Squad for is currently not in the best shape. All I can do is remind you that this is a small portion of the team of Offworld. This is not a complete shift. This is not a new thing for the entirety of Offworld to be working on. Therefore, it's my understanding that the majority of the team is still working on fixes and updates for PvP. Now, I walked into playing Fireteam with hesitancy because I didn't know how it fit within the game, along with my concerns on PvP, like how much focus has shifted to something different. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I had fun playing Fireteam. I had fun with our group and the multiple times I've had the opportunity to give it a shot. And again, what you're looking at is months old. It's a very early playtest build of what Fireteam could be. I can understand the business aspect of a new game mode like this and a new revenue stream that can help support development, which is critical because we're still getting content updates that are free for PvP, which otherwise would fragment the community if those were based on purchases. But I do think the community reaction will have a little bit of a cloud over this because a lot of folks want fixes for PvP. I imagine a lot of folks are going to react with why? Why now? What is this? Why is this not an update or a hotfix? And while that's all valid, it is kind of unfortunate to have an announcement about the game in a new game mode, but that likely be the reaction. But I do think Offworld has a chance to build this out and to kind of prove its value to the community over time. And I think it will take some time for it to fully resonate the way it could. And I will show more of that potential in a follow-up video, so be sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be ready for that. That'll give you more context in some of the missions. Leave a like, drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it was informative, and I hope to see you around for the next video where we break down more of these missions.